before getting into the topic of dynamic memory allocation, I think you are all familiar with what are pointers in C programming. We all know that memory is one important and crucial resource in our computer system. So it is always better to understand the architecture of the memory and the way the operating system is going to manage memory. And as programmers, how the memory is accessible to us, what are the different areas we can access, and what are the possibilities by which through which you can access memory, and what are the advantages and disadvantages in accessing this memory in these multiple ways. So the memory that is assigned to a program or an application that is running on a system in a typical computer architecture can be divided into four segments as shown. The first segment is, we call it sections. The first section is called code section, which contains the instructions or the program executable code that need to be executed. So consider you are executing a C program. Then once you are converted into its corresponding executable code, that executable C program code will go into this section, code section. And we have a small section which is represents static or global variables. You know what is a global variable, right? Global variables are accessible throughout the program. That means it is available to the programmer in the entire life cycle of the program, in the entire lifetime of the program. So that global variables will go into this section. The next two sections which are available to a programmer are a stack and a heap. So a stack section contains all function calls and its local variables. So as I've told, global variables will go into this section. If a variable or any item which is declared inside a function will be called a local variable, and that is available, that is accessible, or the scope of that variable is just inside that function. So when that function is executing, then only that variable will be alive. So that sort of function calls which function is currently executing and what are the local variables available to you at this particular point of time. All these things will go into this section, the stack section of the memory. And we have another area called heap section, which is normally we call it the dynamic memory, or it's also called a free pool of memory. uh, Here you can utilize this for storing your variables, for storing your data. Usually if you would like to store a large chunk of data or a large array, for example a large array, or if you cannot calculate at compile time itself what is the size of this array, what is the size of this variable, etc., or if the variable or if the data is going to grow dynamically, grow or shrink whatever dynamically, then that sort of variables need to be declared or need to be stored inside the heap section of the memory. So that this is a very large memory area, or there is the limitation to this section. The heap section is the entire memory of the system itself. And there is one crucial thing about heap section also, because you should not be trying to consume the entire memory in your system. So that sort of uh, precaution need to be taken while utilizing the memory inside, sorry, the heap memory section. So what I'm trying to say is the local variable or the function calls are declared or are stored inside the stack section, and all the dynamic variable will go into the heap section. We'll take a very small program and we'll see how this stack section and heap section, etc., are going to get utilized or consumed. Okay, here we have a program which has two functions. One square function which takes one argument x, and it returns x square. X is the argument and it returns x square. Then we have another function square of sum, which takes two arguments, and the first argument and the it has it takes the two arguments, and it will give you the sum of the, sorry, square of the sum of these two arguments. So it is x plus y the whole square. That is what this function returns. It's just this program is written for just for demonstration, not for any other purpose. Like this program can be implemented in a much efficient manner than this. But in order to implement, in order to have a demonstration of nested functions, a function calling another function, that sort of a thing, I have written it like this. So the program execution begins, as you know, it's from the main function. So once the main function begins, it has two local variables. One is a and the other one is b, and it has a global variable total, and the total, that global variable is declared here. And this main function calls a square of some function. It will come here, and the square of some function will call, in turn will call the square function. That's it. And at the end it will call another function printf, which is not defined by ourselves, which is available as a function which is available to you, already available to you. And this is another, this will also be treated as another function call. Let's see how the memory is allocated for each of these variables. So first the main method is invoked. So some amount of memory from stack section is, let's say this is our stack section and this is the global or static section. So we had a function, sorry, we had a variable, global variable total, which will go into the global section. And the first function called is main. So that will be allocated with an area in the stack section, which we usually call the stack frame. A stack frame will be allocated for a function usually. So the stack frame, the size of the stack frame will be calculated based on how many variables, how many local variables are there in the function, and what are the arguments to the function, etc. By considering all these things, the size of the stack frame will be calculated. It's actually calculated at compile time, so dynamically we cannot change it. We cannot give a we cannot calculate it at the runtime or execution time. This need to be calculated at compile time. So the main function is invoked, a main function and its local variable, etc., will be allocated with a stack frame, and it is stored. Then now the main function invokes square of some function. Another stack frame will be allocated for the square of some function. It has local variable x, y, and z. I think x and y are the arguments, and z is the variable that is defined inside. So these variables are available within this function only. This variable a and b is available within this function only. The square of some function, again called square function, uh, from our program. See, square of sum is called from main function. It will come here. Then it declares a variable z. It has already two parameters, arguments x and y. Then it calls square function. It will go into this. It has got only one argument x. So that square function and its argument, it is allocated with another stack frame. So at any particular point of time, uh, it is like uh, it is like a stack, or stack section is actually an implementation of the stack data structure itself. Main method, the for a main function, it will be allocating a stack frame, and for the square of sum, which is invoked from the main function, it is allocated with a stack frame on top of it. And it is a square function is called from square of sum function, which is allocated with a stack frame on top of this. So it is like it is an implementation of the stack data structure itself. So at any particular point of time, what are the variables allowed to, or what are the active variables and active function which is getting executed right now is this. these two functions are like, this is the currently executing function, and this is something like paused, and this function is also paused. That is, sorry, this main function was invoked till this point, and from here it is paused, then it will go to here, then it will execute till this, and it will get paused there, then it will go to this function, and once there is no other calls from this function, so once this returns from this function, then this square of some function will get resumed. So it will be like this. Once the when the square function is complete, it will be cleared from the stack frame. The allocated stack frame will be cleared, and correspondingly, now this is some a square of some function, that is what that is the function which is getting executed right now, and these variables are available to you for usage. So it is like when you come out of a function, when you are finished with a function, then only the function that has been called from the other function will be accessible. So that is how stack section of the memory is getting used. So once again, we the global variables will be allocated in the global section, and the function calls and its corresponding arguments or the local variables will be allocated with stack frames on a stack. And as I've told, the stack section is just an implementation of the stack data structure itself. So when a program starts, the OS operating system allocates some amount of reserved space in the stack as a stack, and as I've told, it's an implementation of the stack data structure. So actual allocation of stack frame happens at runtime, but the size of the stack frame that is required for a particular function will be calculated at compile time. So if a stack grows beyond some reserved space, for example, in this case, the operating system allocates 1 MB of uh, stack section for us, and we had a function A which calls B, another function C which is getting called from B, and so on. And if the entire stack section, that is the 1 MB of space, if it is getting consumed, then a stack overflow will happen, and your program will crash. One common situation where the stack overflow will happen is in the case of an infinite recursion. So if you have written a recursive procedure, and if you have forgotten to include any termination condition inside the recursive procedure, then a function A will call again the same function will be called, and so on. So this entire stack will get consumed. So that's one common error in case of an infinite recursion. But there are systems, and then there are compilers which identifies whether it will go into a stack overflow and all. So that's not an issue. Uh, Another thing is that the deallocation of memory is happening only at the time of completion of the execution of that function. For example, for this function E, it has allocated with a stack frame, and the deallocation of this, or the stack frame will be cleared from memory only at the end of the execution of that function E. So that is the one limitation regarding the stack memory section. Another limitation in the case of the stack memory is that we need to know the size of the variable before execution. That means that we need to calculate the size of the stack frame at compile time. So dynamically we cannot change the stack frame's size and all. So in that situation, we will be using the heap memory section, the heap section of our memory. The heap section of the memory is you can utilize, it's something like a free pool of memory. You can utilize the entire memory as heap. There is no limitation for a heap section. Applications heap size is not fixed, its size can vary. Variable can be kept in the memory till the program requires the same. So in the previous slide, we have seen that the deallocation of memory happens when the function completes its execution. But in case of heap memory, you have created a variable that too from inside a function. Uh, but you can clear that variable before the completion of the function also, and you can keep that variable inside the memory after the completion of that function also. But in case of your stack memory, stack section of the memory, your variables will be available till the completion of that function, and once the function is complete, that variable will not be available. There is no set rules for allocation and deallocation. That is the idea behind heap section, or this is also called as a free store area for a programmer. Heap section of the memory is called dynamic memory, and using the heap inside your program is referred to as dynamic memory allocation. So let's say this is your heap section of the memory. So a heap section of the memory can be utilized by using functions, memory allocation functions like malloc, calloc, realloc, and free function is used for deallocating the memory. This is in C programming language. In C++, you will have operators called new and delete. Those who are familiar with C++ programming, you may know. But these functions are also available in C++ because of this backward compatibility with C. So let's take a very simple example. Let's say you have a main function with a variable a and a pointer p, integer pointer. Then you allocate memory. So let's see this in a bit detail. Int a, that declaration, this is inside a function, so a main function's stack frame will be allocated. Inside a function we have two local variables, one is a, another one is a pointer variable which is p. These two variables will be allocated with space in the stack section, and you create a storage space in a heap by using this function. So you use malloc function. Malloc function usually returns void pointer. So in order to make it integer, you typecast it to integer pointer, and that's how you create a variable in a heap section. Now later on, if you would like to access it, that variable, then you can access it through this variable. So it's like you have created a pointer variable here, and then you said you allocate some space in heap. Then once the allocation is done from the heap section, you will get the address of the first block that is allocated from the heap, and that address will be stored in p. So that's what it is shown here. Let's say you have allocated with uh, size for storing an integer variable, sorry, integer data. Let's say it takes some 4 bytes in a typical system architecture. The address of that first byte of here we have allocated with 4 bytes. So the address of the first byte, 200, 201, 202, and 203, that where the let's say that where the bytes allocated for you. Then the address of the first byte from that is the 200. That address will be give address will be stored in p. So here you have a variable, pointer variable p. In that we have stored an address 200. If you dereference that with star p, then you can access this memory location, something like this. Star p is equal to 10 means you can write some data onto value data to this memory location 200 in the heap section. Now let's say you have allocated a memory with this size, and you have added value 10 onto it. Now you have called another malloc statement again for storing an integer. Once again, size of an integer, and you have added another value star p equal to 20. What it means is that once you execute this statement, it will allocate one more space in heap for storing an integer, that is again 4 bytes. Let's say you have got an address of that byte, first byte of that allocated is 400, then that will be stored here, and you can access it again. Star p equal to 20 means it will be storing value 20 at this location 400. What that means is this particular area will not be cleared. This is already there, but you cannot access it right now because the pointer uh, we have changed that pointer from here to the other location. So now this variable will be available in the heap section of the memory till the end of this program. It will not be cleared. If you would like to clear it, you will have to use this function free p. If you use free, then this section will be cleared so that this can be used for this can be used by the operating system for storing any other variables, or if you try to allocate again, you may get access to this area. If you would like to allocate more space, then for example, previously we have seen only one integer. If you would like to allocate more space, then also you can do it like some you would like to allocate a space for an array of 20 integers, then you can say it is 20 into size of integer. So it means that it will allocate you some 20 for sorry for storing space for storing 20 number of integers. Let's say you have got this as the first byte, then from that also you will get the first byte. So if you call it star p, then you will be able to access the first element, star p plus 1 the next element, star p plus 2 the next element, and so on. Or it's like calling the it's like accessing an array. You can access it like p of 0, p of 1, p of 2, etc. So what we have done here is, with this statement, what we have done is we have allocated space for an array of 20 integers. Let's see this function in functions malloc, calloc, realloc bit detail. So various library functions available in C for dynamic memory allocation are this malloc, calloc, and realloc. And for deallocating a block of memory, you can use this function free. So malloc is having uh, a definition void star malloc size t, then size. Void star means it returns a void pointer. Size t is an unsigned integer. Size t refers to a type which cannot be negative, which can be zero or a positive value. It returns a void pointer, returns the address of the first byte in the block of memory that is allocated. For example, I can give a command like I can give a statement like this: void star p equal to malloc 4. What it will happen is it will allocate 4 bytes of memory in your heap section. Let's say this is your heap section of the memory. Then it will allocate 4 bytes of memory in your heap section. Nothing is going to stop you for giving like this malloc 4. It will allocate 4 bytes. Malloc 10, it will allocate 10 bytes. But it's always better to use uh, the size of the variable, because size of the variable here, let's say if we know that the size of an integer takes 4 bytes in our system, then we can give a command like this, and we can use that for storing an integer. But it's always better to use a statement like this: in star p is equal to size of int. Means that if the system is going to take only 2 bytes for storing an integer, then that sort of usage can be this usage will be better. So if you try to print your allocated memory address, then it will be printing the first address of the first byte that is allocated. So this particular statement in star p P is a integer pointer, malloc 3 into size of int. It will allocate memory for storing three integers. Then size of is an operator which gives you how much space, an integer variable is going to take. Then always we need to typecast it. Why? Because malloc is returning a void pointer. Void pointer as such you cannot utilize. You can use if you're creating a variable of integer type, then you need a pointer which points to an integer. Then only you can utilize it. So an integer pointer, then typecast the void pointer to an integer pointer so that you can utilize it by like this. You can dereference it like star p equal to 2 means that in the first 4 bytes you will be storing a value 2, star p plus 1 equal to 4. In the next 4 bytes, the second location of this, you have allocated you have allocated memory for storing three integers. So for the first second in the second location you are storing 4, in the third location you are storing 10. So it can be accessed like an array. P of 0 is 2, P of 1 is 4, P of 2 is 10, like that. So this can be accessed like this also. P of 1 equal to 100. It is same as star P of 1 equal to 100. So that is regarding malloc function. That is regarding malloc function. This is calloc. It takes two arguments, size t num and size t size. Size t num means it is for giving how many blocks need to be uh, uh, reserved for storing your value, and what is the size of each block. So it's like this: calloc 3 comma size of int. So it is same as malloc 3 into size of int. So the both the statements are going to or this statement and this statement are both are going to reserve space for storing three integers. There is no difference at all. The main difference is that in calloc it initializes the block allocated to 0. In the previous statement malloc, it will not initialize your block. If you print without storing any value, if you try to access the values in this location, then it will give you garbage values. But after this statement, if you try to access without storing any value, all values will be 0. So calloc takes two arguments and the it initializes the entire block to 0 also. Calloc also returns a void pointer, so you will have to typecast it to integer to store integer values. You need to typecast it to float pointer if you would like to use this for storing floating point variables. Another function is realloc. Realloc is usually for changing the size of allocated memory block. Let's say you have allocated allocated memory with the help of malloc or calloc, and in runtime you would like to change the size of the variable, then you can use realloc. Realloc also takes two arguments. The first argument is a pointer, and the second argument is the new size of your memory block that is required to be stored. So size t is once again an unsigned integer. It cannot be zero or negative. Sorry, it cannot be negative values. It can be zero. So to increase the size of the block, what you need to do is you need to say this is my void pointer and this is the new size. Then the already allocated block will be resized to the new size. So the machine may create an entirely new block if there is no contiguous memory location available in the already allocated space. If there is contiguous free memory available, then it will be simply extending the block. So if it is creating an entirely new block, and whatever data is already available in the block which you have allocated, that will be copied to the new block. So a simple example, let's say you have an integer n and you would like to create an array of size n dynamically. then you cannot write it like int a and in bracket n. That will give you a compilation error, because at compile time you should know the size of the array if you would like to allocate memory in the stack area, or the static sort of allocation. If you would like to if you would like to allocate memory dynamically, then you will have to use it by you will have to do it by using malloc or this sort of statements. So let's say you would like to create an integer array of size n, and you know the size of the array in runtime only. Then you can create it by this statement in star a equal to. So it will create an integer pointer, then typecast it to integer pointer malloc n into size of int. Then n into size of integer. Maybe if your system is taking 4 bytes for storing an integer, then uh, your system is going to allocate n into size of n into 4 bytes for storing those. This is dynamically allocated, and this will be stored in the heap section of your memory. Then you can access the array like this. This is going to be an array of size n. Let's say you have added n is equal to 10, then it will be having all values from 1 to 10. You can run this code and check the output of this code. Now let's say you would like to you have created this array and you have used this array, and at a later point of time you realize that I need to store some more elements. I had created an array of size 10 only. I have created an array of size 10 only. Then now I need to have an array of size 20, so that I need to store some more elements. What you can do is you can give a function realloc. Sorry. ഇതിങ്ങനെ നടന്നുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുക. Okay, so it is realloc a. A is my pointer, which is the previous pointer. A comma 2 into n into size of n. So what will happen is, previously if n was 10, 20 into size of n. So it will be extending your memory. If already contiguous memory is available from A, if contiguous memory is not available, then it will allocate a new block of size 20, and it will copy all these 10 values to the new block. You can always you can compile this code and check what is the previous block and what is your new block. By running only a very small code like this, you will always get previous block and new block as same, because in your memory this contiguous memory location will be available. So you can access the new block like this. That is, all the 20 locations, 20 memory locations will be available to you. But it does not mean that you need to free your memory location, because this is by using realloc, you are just extending your block. So there is no need of issuing a command for freeing your memory block in the memory block allocated in the first statement. But if you are using an malloc statement here in star b equal to malloc, then you need to use a free statement here. Then only the memory block from A will be deallocated. So that's all for today. Any questions?